I feel like part of it is, for me personally, I see all these people online saying all this stuff, and I'm like, do people listen to this? Like, do people believe this? I need to make sure that I'm doing my part to be like, no, I don't believe this.
Yeah,
I
to
guess.
dispelling the myths.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Exactly. I think that's what it is. Also, I just have a very strong personality, so.
Well, that's an understatement, that's for sure.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business, not S.O.B as in son of a biscuit.
Yeah, we don't call you guys names.
Well, I guess S.O.B is a name, but it's fine.
But it's more of a descriptor, right?
That's fair. That's fair. Well, today we're recording on Valentine's Day. This doesn't come out on Valentine's Day. I think maybe it's like a week later or something. But as you can tell, I am like all hearts today. I have the Design Demon earrings on. They say drop dead on them. So I'm very festive.
I very rarely get to see you kind of girly. You're always a little more like, dark and mysterious. And so it's refreshing to see you in pink. Very nice.
Thank you. I do wear colors. I'm a colorful person. Yes, besides black, I actually have a lot of blue in my wardrobe.
Okay, black and blue. It reminds me of the You song.
Okay, well, Vivian, what are we talking about today?
So today we are actually going to go into our little time machines and go back in time to talk about nostalgia marketing. Ooh. And this is something where I think maybe we don't really give it enough thought. So we see some of the bigger companies or organizations, businesses doing this. But I think as small business owners, we really don't pay too much attention to it, or maybe we're doing it without even knowing exactly why we're doing it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I feel like nostalgia is like a really big thing right now. Let's talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. Like Usher.
With Usher.
I saw online a lot of people being like, Gen Z, this halftime show is not for you. It's for all the millennials.
Yes, nostalgia is a very big thing. I was reading something the other day, and I think I would like to think there isn't any truth behind it, but perhaps there is. It was saying that we actually associate better memories to the past than they actually were at the time. So it's almost like when you're looking back, you have this sense of awe, right? Instead of actually what it was at the time, which probably was.
I'm pretty sure that is totally true. I could see that. Yeah. I could totally see that, which is good. And so before we get in, this is going into nostalgia marketing because it's going to come back to your target audience. Vivian, you and I are 15 years apart. So what we consider nostalgic is very different. I'm in that weird, I was born in 1998. So I'm technically Gen Z, but I'm like an old Gen Z. Some people call it Zillennial. Because like I'm in that weird space where I'm not a millennial, I'm technically Gen Z, but I haven't really had the experiences that Gen Z has had. Like I remember having a computer room. I remember MTV music videos, I remember that kind of stuff. And I feel like Gen Z doesn't, but I am technically Gen Z.
And see, I'm at the point where as a 40, just barely over 40, right? We can actually, I think we're the last generation to remember a time without computers and without the heavy influence of technology that we have now. So like you're saying, when you were coming up, and we grew up in the same household, right?
Yeah.
Just 15 years apart. So it's interesting that you remember there being a computer room. I remember there being a cart in the living room that had our first computer. I remember when Dad bought it. I think I was maybe like 12 years old or something. And big and clunky, had the keyboard, all that stuff. Yeah. And so it's just funny that you remember room. I remember a designated little corner for a computer.
Yeah. Well, and so again, going back to nostalgia marketing, you really need to know who you're talking to. But if you do it right, like there are brands that you just say that name and it just triggers those memories, right? Like for me, this is going to sound hilarious. For me, it's Pizza Hut. So growing up, we would have Pizza Hut only on very special occasions, right? So I distinctly remember it was the World Cup. It was Spain against Germany. It was just Mom and I, because you and Hector were basically adults. Dad was deployed, and it was halftime, and we went to Pizza Hut, and we were hurrying because we didn't want to miss any part of the game. And whenever I think of Pizza Hut, or whenever I see a commercial or anyone brings it up, like that memory just comes back to me. And it's such a strong, like happy feeling that Pizza Hut didn't even have to try. Like that, Pizza Hut's like my favorite pizza brand.
See, and it's weird because I have memories of Pizza Hut in a very different sense, though, because when I was coming up, and all of you 40-year-olds are going to remember this, the Book It Club. Okay. This was a program where I guess the schools partnered up, or there was some national program that partnered up with Pizza Hut, and they were encouraging people to read, or kids. And so the way that they encouraged us to read is they gave us this big button that you could pin to your shirt if you wanted to. And then every book that you read, you would turn into the teacher. They'd give you these little like stickers. And then once you got enough stickers on that pin, you could take it to go get your own personal pan pizza at Pizza Hut. And so for us, it's funny that for you, you're like, we only went on super special occasions. For us, we got to go practically like every Friday or every other Friday, because we would get a free personal pan pizza if Mom took us, because we did the reading. We've always been book nerds. Like we just read a lot. That was something that, it's a correlation, just in a very different way.
Yeah. And that, I mean, again, great example of same household, but very different experiences.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, Vivian, I want to ask you, I personally feel like nostalgia marketing has become like this big thing recently, and like past like couple of years. Do you think it has become a thing now, and why do you think that? Or do you think maybe I'm just old enough to notice now?
I think you probably are old enough to notice. I think it's always been a thing. Just because when you look back at advertising in general, the key to advertising and marketing is really making a connection with your audience. And so I feel like for the businesses and companies, let's say it was, the 1960s, if they had a demographic that was a little older, then using nostalgia marketing would be a way to tap into and to make that connection with them. And I think that's where the power of nostalgia marketing comes in. Now you can teeter on doing it wrong, like the wrong way, and then it becomes like visceral, right? And people are like, oh, well, like I didn't like that. But if you do it correctly, I do think that what it does is it's an opportunity for you to really establish really fast some type of connection to say, hey, if this was you, if you have memories like this, then, we're for you, or we understand it.
Yeah, and that's really the power of nostalgia marketing. It can, as you said, if done correctly, it can create such a strong emotional reaction and connection. And that's really what marketing is about. It's about creating your community and creating that connection with your audience. It comes down to that positive connotation between the brand and your happy memories that you're actually remembering a lot happier than they happened.
Oh, yeah. There was just recently, I shared on my Instagram story a clip of The Land Before Time. And it was when the mother dinosaur is dying. And I looked back now and I almost started crying when I saw the clip because it's a very emotional, like, your mom's dying. Like, that's sad, right? And then I started thinking about it and I'm like, as a child, how emotionally did I guarantee you I cried during that whole movie. And I can't even remember now, but like, I used to watch it all the time. Like,
I've never seen it.
You haven't? Okay, let's do that one day. Next time you're over here to spend the night, let's watch The Land Before Time.
I would like to say part of the reason I've never watched it is because I know that the mom dinosaur is going to die and I don't want to be sad. That's the same reason I've never seen Bambi.
Really? That was actually the first movie that I think Dad took me to go watch in the theaters. It was Bambi. So see, if you ever wonder why I'm a little more callous than you are, that's why, okay? I was exposed. I was exposed to a lot of emotional stuff very early on. You gotta suck it up, Buttercup. So no, well, here's going back to the effectiveness of this in your business. If you're to use this to kind of draw in or make that connection with someone, what's really interesting about this is, at its core, the one thing that you're consistently doing when you're trying to put your product or service in front of somebody, and if you're doing it right, is you're trying to really like say, hey, I see you. Yeah. I understand you. I understand your problem. And so the nostalgia marketing where that comes in is basically because if you're able to pick something that's nostalgic enough for enough people, or that's a global emotion or something, then just kind of like with the Pizza Hut example where we both have positive annotations or positive feelings towards a brand, towards Pizza Hut, but in very different ways because we have different memories attached to it. So if you do it correctly, you can tap into people's, you had a different experience with it, but you still have a positive reaction, correlation. I have a very different experience, but mine is still a positive correlation. So even though our memories are very different, if Pizza Hut were to use some of that nostalgia, marketing, they'd be able to tap into that, even though we're completely different demographics and all of that. So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's very effective in cutting down, being able to just kind of to reach a lot of people, right?
Yes. And if you're wondering if nostalgia marketing is actually worth your time or actually like as effective as we're making it sound, according to the Grenoble School of Management in France, they actually did an experiment and the results showed that nostalgic feelings increase people's willingness to pay for the desired object. So if they had like a nostalgic feeling correlated to that object, they were willing to pay more.
It's almost, what that, first of all, oui, c'est vrai. Second of all, just had to say that, get that in there. Show off my en français.
I took Latin.
I mean, a dead language. Of course, that's right up your alley. The interesting part of you saying that is I kind of see this a lot in vinyl records, right? So like someone is willing to pay a higher price point for a vinyl record that maybe transports them back in time to, to a memory that they have attached to that song or that album or whatever it is. So it is a good motivator for people to open up their wallets and to dish out a little more cash. I mean, how much would you pay for a Pizza Hut pizza right now?
Not as much as you think. That was a bad example.
But really, I was testing you.
I would, if it was a special occasion, I'd be willing to spend it.
There you go. Do you have a list of emails that you have collected from past buyers that is just sitting there getting dusty?
Are you looking for a way to build a long-term relationship with people so that your small business will stay top of mind for them? Want to increase your repeat sales?
For every dollar spent on email marketing, businesses receive an average of a $42 return on their investment. And with an ROI like that, can you really afford to continue to let that email list sit there and just collect dust?
Joining our Nothing But Emails monthly membership program means that you can sit back and reap the rewards of sending out monthly or bi-monthly communication while we craft the email and send it out on your behalf.
For less than $100 a month, you can capitalize on this. Start today by visiting www.theseasonedmarketer.com/services. So to piggyback off of that, when we were talking about how you're able to reach, a ton of people at one time, and that's why it's really effective. The key there, though, is understanding your target audience. So you have to know, and this is, y'all, let's just say this is across the board with all your marketing. So not just with nostalgia marketing, but it can backfire very quickly if you are not in tune with who your target audience is and you really don't know them as well as you think you do. And so just like we tell you with everything else, where you'll want to have a customer avatar, you'll want to do the same thing for this. If you're planning on incorporating any part of that nostalgia into your marketing plans or into any of these initiatives, then you want to get hyper focused on exactly who you're talking to, because that's the only real way that you're going to be able to understand what's going to work best for them.
Yeah, I mean, you really need to understand your target audience, because if you tap into a memory that's not positive, like if you bring up a nostalgic feeling that is not happy, it's going to backfire. It's going to go very poorly.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't recommend tapping into like Pearl Harbor or anything like that.
Unless I was thinking of the Challenger.
I mean, unless you're doing it to draw out a very emotional, like, if you see this with 9/11, like you remember how you felt about this, then, make sure that you're creating connections or whatever your business is about, unless you want to draw that deep emotional reaction out of someone. You definitely want to pick and choose what you're focusing on.
So let's give an example, like a way you can apply this nostalgic marketing. Let's say you've been in business for 20 years. It's your 20-year anniversary. You can use nostalgia marketing to say, hey, let's look back at what our original product was, or let's take a trip down memory lane and see who we were at that time. Here's how we've changed, how we've grown. Here's how the community has changed and grown. So a great way to like bring everyone in to create like that nostalgic feeling for everyone, not just talking about your company. A great small business example here in Charleston, Hyman's Seafood is a really popular seafood place down in downtown Charleston, and they're currently doing 19.99 Tuesdays, where locals can go to Hyman's and they can actually get like the food for what they were charging in 19.99.
So they're rolling back the prices.
They're rolling back the prices.
So Chelsea, do you know, were they established in 1999, or what was the reasoning for picking that year?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on why they picked that year. They have been around for a while, definitely longer than 1999, but they are a huge tourist attraction. And I'm wondering if, because this is specifically for locals, they're trying to reach their local community a little bit more and kind of establish themselves not only as like a tourist attraction, but also as a local restaurant that we can enjoy.
Yeah, and you're right about that, because if you guys have ever been to Charleston, South Carolina, most tourists do stop by Hyman Seafood because they have like crabs and just a good variety of seafood and stuff. But if you do live here, you kind of don't go there for dinner just because, for one, there are longer wait lines. And two, you're also like, is it maybe a little overpriced? Possibly. So I think you're right. It could be a way for them to draw in that local business and not, especially if you think about it, because when did you end up going to eat? In January, December?
In January.
Okay. That's not really a tourist month here in the South. Like, I mean, once the summer and it gets nice and they could go to the beach and all that, then that's the touristy season. So
yeah, let me tell you, it was cold when we went.
But so you're spot on. They're trying to draw business in, and tourists are not here to frequent the restaurant. So they're like, how are we going to get others to come in here?
It's a great example of using nostalgia marketing, not necessarily just for the sake of nostalgia marketing, but actually specifically reaching locals. A great example of remembering what your marketing goal was with your initiative.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to mention here is the strike of balance, right? Yeah. So there is a such thing as like overdoing something. So especially when it comes to, I feel like people don't want to relive the past necessarily. They just want to remember the highlights. Right? Like, give me the highlights, give me the good stuff. So there is a balance where you can overdo it if you're not really careful with it. Did they do anything in the store to make it feel like $19.99 in the restaurant?
So we actually didn't go for the $19.99 prices. They also do a discount on their all-you-can-eat crab legs, specific weeks of the year. So we went for the all-you-can-eat crab legs, which was delicious. It was amazing. But I do want to say, coming back to nostalgia marketing, you don't have to do a huge campaign or anything like that. Nostalgia marketing can also be small. Think about Throwback Thursdays or like, I don't know, Memory Monday. Is that a thing? I don't know.
Yeah. I think you made that up.
Flashback Friday. That's one. Just sharing maybe something in your past as a small business. If you've been in business for a while, that can be fun. It can also be wonderful on social media because it is shareable. So people can share your posts and people can be like, oh, hey, I remember this. And that helps you spread awareness.
Or using it, I've seen a lot of people using it as, let's say they'll post a picture from their childhood or something, and then they'll ask an engaging question about it. And so then it does drive the engagement up quite a bit. They get responses from it. So I do think it can be used or integrated into your social media as well. You could pepper that in there. As long as it serves a purpose and you're able to make that connection back into some type of engagement.
Absolutely. So my point is, nostalgia marketing doesn't have to be this big campaign. You don't have to create like a Super Bowl ad or anything like that. Like, it can be a small, intimate Facebook post or something like that. So Vivian, I have a question for you. When I was doing research for this episode, I like to read articles and stuff like that so I can feel like I've fully grasped the concept that we're talking about. I always want to come in feeling knowledgeable, right? And some of the articles that I was reading, there were people basically saying that nostalgia marketing is lazy and it doesn't help with meaningful branding. What are your thoughts on that?
Boy, do I have thoughts about that. Because, let me tell you. First of all, I don't understand why people think that easy means not effective. Okay? Like,
thank you.
I'm sorry. We don't have to work our buns off. But, like, working your buns off does not equate to something being effective. It just means you spent way more time on it, right?
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you, as long as in marketing, as long as you find something that works and is going to deliver results, those results being either an increase in your brand awareness, an increase in your sales, whatever your marketing goal or initiative is for that particular campaign. If it meets it, if you check that box off, who cares how much time you did or didn't spend on something? And I guess that's where I just don't understand. Y'all could be uppity about marketing stuff, like that's fine. But at the end of the day, really, it's dollars and cents. Like that's what you're trying to do. Now, you also, I don't think that it may not be a good fit for everybody. And if you're uncomfortable doing it and you really don't know how to tie it back to your business, to your product or service, then I would say mull on it a little more, right? Like let it simmer and get your thoughts together so that when you execute, it can be well done. But that has nothing to do with whether it's lazy or not. That just has to do with, is it going to represent your business well? And is it going to attract the right kind of people that will purchase from you?
I love that answer. And that's basically how I feel too, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, I don't understand why people are equating more effort to better. Like, that doesn't, if something is easy and still effective, then why would you not do that? That's great.
And I also don't get it because I guess in my eyes, it's what we do in marketing every day. At the end of the day, the only thing you're trying to do is to build a connection with someone. And I'm just this is how I think about marketing in the way sometimes that we go out there and try to do things. All right. If you're out there and you are basically just like talking at people all the time, right?
Yeah.
This is my product and service, buy it. This is this and this, buy it. It's almost in my mind, what I see is pretend you're walking on the other side of the street. You have someone that's walking on the other side of the street from you and they're on the sidewalk and you see them from across the street, you see them and then you run over to them. You don't know this person, but you run over to them and you're like, hey, I'm selling gadgets and my gadget's $10 and you should buy it. You don't know anything about that person. They don't know your name. And so that's what I feel a lot of people do is they feel like their marketing is essentially just running across the street and telling people to buy stuff without knowing or building a connection or asking them anything. And hence, need I remind you guys, once again, it's taking 7 to 8 touch points before somebody is actually going to open up their wallet and spend money with you at this point in 2024. If that's the case, if nostalgia marketing is one touch point, okay, just one way for them to see you and be like, dang, they get me. Like I have that same memory, or I understand because, it's the same feeling that I have about, that time frame, then who cares? It's that's all you're doing. You're building these little touch points up, and nostalgia marketing could be a very good, effective one.
I love that. I love the way you just explained that. And I want to say real quick, I feel like marketers, the marketing world sometimes thinks they're so smart, right? Like we've got these keywords and these phrases and we know what we're doing and it's all mind games and stuff like that. Y'all, marketing is easy. Don't overthink it. Don't think that you need to find a marketer to do your marketing for you. If that's what you decide to do, that's great. And we're not telling you, yes, do this, don't do this. We're just saying that we want you guys to be able to do your own marketing, and you can do your own marketing. It's really fun. There's a reason why we're both marketers. We enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
It's just about you creating a connection with your audience and showing them, hey, I have something that will help this problem that you have. That's what marketing is.
Yeah. And Chelsea and I are definitely not fronting, y'all. Like we don't have it all figured out. The one thing we will say though, is some of the most effective people that do their own marketing are the ones who are really in tune with their community, and they know who they're for and who they're not for. And so all of that kind of plays into what Chelsea was just talking about. We don't have to overcomplicate things. And it's outsourcing or keeping marketing within your organization. It's, it just depends on what you're comfortable with and how much time you have to devote to it.
Well, I hope this was a helpful conversation.
You know what I think we need to do is be less preachy. I feel like we're very preachy today.
I guess. I feel like part of it is, for me personally, I see all these people online saying all this stuff, and I'm like, do people listen to this? Like, do people believe this? I need to make sure that I'm doing my part to be like, no, I don't believe this.
Yeah, to dispelling the myths.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is. Also, I just have a very strong personality, so.
Well, that's an understatement, that's for sure.
Okay.
All right. So thanks once again for joining us for another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. Please leave us a review or rate this podcast or episode. We certainly love to get feedback and hear from you guys. Also, if you're looking for more marketing resources and tools, go to our website at www.theseasonedmarketer.com. And don't forget that we have a YouTube channel where every week we release a new marketing video. So hopefully you guys will be able to just watch all of our free content, because we put a lot of free information out there, Chelsea.
Yes, we do. A lot of it. And the rest of today, I'm going to be shooting more free content. So
awesome. That's what I love to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what, guys? Happy Valentine's Day. Go be the best SOB you can be and be a little nostalgic.